You are listening to the Heartland Author Podcast. Welcome to the Heartland Author Podcast. I am Aaron Apollo Camp, a multi-genre author and a soon-to-be poet from the American Midwest. It has been a while, but welcome to a new episode of this podcast. I will be referencing sexual content in this episode, so this episode is not safe for work or children. I write books in multiple genres across fiction, nonfiction, and poetry categories. Especially regarding fiction, I write in multiple genres. Fiction genres that I write in encompass both genre fiction and literary fiction, and include science fiction, fantasy, utopian, dystopian, romance, mystery, thriller, horror, historical fiction, political fiction, sports fiction, and LGBTQIA+ fiction. This is not necessarily an exhaustive list of fiction genres that I am writing or will write in. Recently, I read Afterglow by November Rhodes. I hope I'm pronouncing her name correctly. You can find Afterglow on Amazon in Kindle ebook format. Afterglow is a short erotic poetry collection, with each poem having a multi-verse haiku format, and November also included some of her erotic artwork in the collection. Afterglow is the only erotica work I have read so far, and it is an excellent erotica work. Good erotica seamlessly combines the emotion and explicitness of sexual activity, and November does exactly that in her poetry and artwork. If you are interested in reading erotica, then I highly recommend Afterglow by November Rhodes. There's a good chance you'll find my 5-star review of her work. However, while I enjoy reading erotica, I will not be writing erotica works of my own. The reason why I will not be writing erotica is not because I am prudish, because I am definitely not prudish. There may be works that I will write which will include a sex scene, but just because a work has a sex scene in it does not automatically make it erotica. Meg Latour of the iWriterly YouTube channel recently did a video offering advice on writing sex scenes titled How to Write Good Sex Scenes, and she included a 6-level scale for steaminess in literature, and erotica is the 6th and highest level of steaminess. I define erotica as works where sexual behavior is either highly integral to the plot or a more important aspect of the work than plot or character development. Latour's definition of erotica is not drastically dissimilar to mine. However, while I am not dissing those who choose to write erotica by any means, I personally feel that it is too easy for me to write a work where plot or character development takes a backseat to sex, which is a hallmark of erotica literature. In 1962, John F. Kennedy stood at Rice Stadium and said, in part, "We chose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard." I choose to write works of fiction in which plot and character development take a back seat to nothing, not because they are easy to write, but because they are hard to write. It is difficult but rewarding to write entertaining stories centered around a fascinating plot or a development of an interesting character. This is Aaron Apollo Camp reminding you to write your imagination, erotic or not. Bye for now. If you would like to be interviewed for a future episode of the Heartland Author Podcast, please email the podcast host at campaaronapollo@gmail.com. This podcast episode is intended for the private listening of our audience. Any reuse, retransmission, or redistribution of this podcast episode in any form without the express written consent of the podcast host is prohibited. Sound effects obtained from https://www.zapslat.com.